Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of No Limits. My name is Scott Morganroth, not Michael Buffer, along with Candy Ebling. Glad to have you with us for another night. And Candy, we're back.
That's good. It's good to be back, Scott.
It sure is. So, what do we got cooking, Candy?
We are talking about how the pandemic is going to affect and impact our life going forward.
All right, Candy, lead it off.
You were going to lead off with some numbers?
Absolutely. And these numbers, at least at the moment, don't lie. So let's break down the logistics, shall we? First of all, okay, we have over 22 million cases worldwide, and 783,000 have died. In the United States, we're looking at over 5.4 million cases and over 170,000 deaths. Ouch.
Yep, that's some big numbers there. Some really big numbers there.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this virus is a virus that we don't have a vaccine for right now. And, you know, I don't care what anybody says and how many positive tests there are. The deaths are what they are. Okay, and I don't want to hear, well, the flu had this, and forget it. We're dealing with COVID-19. You know, we're finding lots of gatherings. Okay, you can't have X amount of people. Sports is dropping like a bunch of dominoes. Millions of dollars are being lost. But let's just go ahead and talk about the several weeks to several months noted and take some damage to the heart and the brain and the kidneys, okay?
So let's start out by thinking about how we've changed so far already and what we might be doing going forward that would be very different. I work in the business world. It's always been very well known that when you meet somebody for the first time, you're going to give a firm handshake. Whether it be you're going for a first interview. I mean, I remember back in college, back in the days, they actually coached you on how to do a good handshake. You know, you're not just the fingertips. You're not squeezing too hard. Firm, not flimsy. But do you do handshakes anymore? No. Now it's all elbow bumps.
Amazing, isn't that?
It is. It is. I mean, that's just one of the things. You know, social distance now. Which means being 6 feet apart from somebody. One of the other things that's changed in our world is our hygiene. So, Scott, did you know that now the happy birthday song isn't just sung during birthday gatherings?
No, I did not know that.
That's how you should sing the song, and that's how long you should be washing your hands with soap and water. While you're washing your hands, sing the happy birthday song. That's how long you should be washing your hands with soap and water.
For real?
Yep, exactly.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
And one of the things that's really gone popular in the health industry, along with that hygiene, is virtual doctor's visits.
Really?
Yep. So I can say that I used it once in the last couple months. I wasn't feeling well, didn't know what I should do. So on my insurance plan, they have virtual visits, so I can call a doctor. They call me back. I can tell them about my symptoms. I don't have to go into an office, go into a waiting room, see a doctor, especially when you're sick, depending on what it is. Obviously, there are some things you need to go into the doctor to see. So please do not take what I'm saying as you shouldn't. But for some things, you do not need to go into the doctor to go see. He can diagnose it over the phone, over online, virtually. And they have a separate charge for that too.
No kidding.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, one of the things I can say about we've taken our pets to the vet. That's changed.
Right.
What did you do to do that, Scott? Do you remember they came out to the door to pick up our cat and take him inside? He did the examination, and then what they'll do is they will come out with your animal and they'll call you over the phone and tell you what's up.
That's true. I do remember that. It does come back to memory now that I'm sitting in my Jeep. They're coming out, taking the cat right inside. Unreal. That's really what it's come down to.
It is. It is. There's no sitting in the waiting room waiting for the doctor to come out or anything like that. So let's move on to one of the next topics. Public gatherings. When's the last time you were in a public gathering?
When? Spring training, actually.
Back in March. Before everything shut down for the virus.
Right.
So tell me, how has some of the gatherings in sports changed?
No fans.
None?
That's what it's come down to now, isn't it?
What about announcers and broadcasters?
Right.
Where are they?
They're obviously remote announcers in their stadiums or wherever they're at.
So do you think, going forward, that it's going to stay that way? Because let's face it,
right.
If broadcasters aren't traveling, there's a lot less budget that needs to be approved. Because if they're not taking a flight here to and from, you know, especially like let's say a baseball team, on a regular year, how many games do they play?
162.
And they play, what, 3 or 4 game series normally, so
right.
You're figuring that's how many trips back and forth, because half of them are at home.
Right.
So it's 80 games on the road. So it's at least, what, 20, 30 trips back and forth places?
Well, yeah, give or take. It's a lot of travel. That's all you need to know. It's a lot of travel.
So can you imagine the amount of money they can save by having them in the booth in their home stadium and watching it on monitors?
Yeah, but you know what, though? Okay, I get it. Won't happen. COVID-19, yes. But you can't take away the human element. Again, 2020 is an unprecedented year. We know that. Your sister Marie, when we were out in Arizona, said unprecedented. And I've had the word unprecedented, okay, engraved into my skull. Unprecedented. Okay. No, announcers will be back in the booths in 2021.
Well, they're in the booth now. They're
yeah,
just
but
not
I'm
traveling.
talking. No, but they're going to be traveling next year. This year, forget it. Unless you're in a bubble next year, we don't know. Those are a lot of variables there. We've heard that the NBA may be in a bubble again next year, but situated in 4 area towns. But again, those are TBDs. Okay.
So
and
what do you think about the beat writers? Because don't they? A lot of beat writers travel. Do you think they'll travel?
Well, it depends. It depends. Right now, you're talking about everything this year versus 2021. We don't know. Right now, I go on Miami Marlins.
What's your prediction?
As a matter of fact, I think a lot of them will. Now, will they be scaled back to certain ones? I don't know. It depends on the organization, whether they can afford to send them. How about a lot of these organizations that are going broke that don't even have them? You know, so there's a lot of TBDs involved with that. But beat writers, a certain part of sports, okay, that'll stay the same. Again, you throw everything out the window in 2020. We had a broadcast last night, right? Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this on the Sports Exchange. We talked about what? Remote broadcasting, remote gatherings, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I understand. But again, we're talking about this year. Limited access.
But we're talking tonight about going forward.
Right.
So, yes, I understand tonight is remote broadcasting. I'm saying there's a chance that especially the beat writers, I can see this, that they won't be traveling with the team to save money, save costs. They can get the same quotes. They can do some of these. Obviously, right now you're doing press conferences and media coverages via what?
Zoom.
So they're doing it all via Zoom virtually.
Right.
I see some of that continuing. I get you don't. I do.
Right. All right, well, you know what? I'm a writer, and obviously you are not.
That's true. But I'm in the business world where the money talks. And as the money talks and it walks, it might not be that it travels with the beat writers. Because, let's face it, there aren't as many beat writers as there used to be because there's not as many local papers as there used to be. So you don't have the need for as many in the first place. You know, you don't have 4 or 5 different newspapers or, I mean, yes, you have.
Yeah, but that's a different conversation altogether. It's one thing that you're talking about virtual stuff. I get that. But now you're talking about the media where newspapers are dropping like dominoes, okay?
Right.
So that's a process of elimination. We're not talking virtual gatherings. Let's just get on the same page. Or then again, let's don't get on the same page. I go with you there, okay? I'm with it, okay?
We agree to disagree on that one.
We do.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. And I love it. I love this disagreement, agree to disagree. But okay, right now, or again, we're talking about a different situation. If you're telling me that there won't be the economy because media outlets are going broke or there aren't as many, that's a different animal. Sit in on a Miami Marlins Zoom call and a motor mouth like me is only limited to one question. That makes it a little challenging than me getting a feature story with a tape recorder and asking 5 or 6 where I can put together a credible story. Yes, tape recorder. Old school. You get it? Okay. What do you want me to do? Write a story based on 10 separate quotes? Oh, I got my feature. Good stuff.
2020.
Oh,
and
yeah,
beyond.
right. Okay.
2020 and beyond. The tape recorder is going by the wayside, Mr. Scott. You're going to have, I think you're going to have some of these virtual interviews done virtually on a Zoom.
No
and
kidding.
You can ask the PR people for, you know, an interview, 5-10 minutes, and there you go.
Okay.
That's just what I'm saying.
Well, I mean,
don't
let's
know
face
if
the
they'll-
reality, okay? The NFL season this year is going to be different. They're going to be limiting the capacity in the press box probably by 1/3, or who knows what the capacity with the 6 feet distance, and everybody's walking around with a mask. I get that. I understand that definitely there will be a lot more limitations than in most years. And one of my old friends that I've known for the better part of 38 years says he doesn't envy any NFL PR guy that has to be in that, and he's glad he got out of it when he did, so he doesn't have to deal with this issue.
I understand that. I understand that completely. A media conference room or a press box is a public gathering, and remember,
Right.
we can't have public gatherings right now.
Right.
So it's going by the wayside. So let's move on to the economy. How has the economy changed? Who would have ever guessed in a million years that the U.S. would have a coin shortage?
That is surreal.
Seriously. And why do we have the coin shortage? Everybody keeps asking. Well, when you shut down industry, businesses, and people don't want to give, and place like businesses that remained open didn't want to touch cash, because let's face it, cash has always been said that it's the dirtiest thing you can be touching because it gets touched by so many different people.
Right.
So if they're not using cash, where is all the coin? It's all sitting. It's not being circulated. And the government, the Federal Reserve, wasn't producing the same amount because they knew they didn't need to, because they knew the demand wasn't there as well. And they had to social distance themselves and everything, so they didn't make as much. Well, let me tell you, people are hoarding coins. I've had people come in, oh, here's $500 worth of dimes that I had just sitting in the jar. Well, if you had $500 of dimes, I can only imagine how many quarters you have and pennies, because let's face it, I mean, how many times do you get in change these days?
Well, that's a little drastic with the hoarding of the coins. Then you're going to have a lot of people hoarding with the coins, and all of a sudden those coins might be worth more than what the currency value really is. So if we're all guilty of hoarding coins, and so be it. We'll deal with that.
I'm sure there are tons of people, because back when I was growing up, they always said you should take a big jar, write the word retirement on it, and start throwing all your change in there. And people did it, and people have done it, because I've seen people come in with jars of unrolled coin, and much to their dismay, they have to take it back and roll it themselves, because most banks don't have coin counters anymore.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Okay, so let's move on from the coin shortage. Let's talk about travel. Did you know, Scott, do you have any idea how much money the airline industry has lost so far?
Wouldn't even venture a guess.
They've lost over $30 billion with a B, $billion so
Really?
far. They have taken such a hit. So my question to you is, Scott, do you see yourself comfortable in an airplane anytime soon?
I never saw myself comfortable in an airplane anyway, so it doesn't make it. Not that I'm helping your argument, E. No, I'm a little different breed. I like driving, so that's beside the point. But I get your point. I don't plan to take an airplane if I can help it. If I can jump in a vehicle, okay, working on my schedule, not worrying about any security checks, I'm going to drive.
Okay? So that's going to change because let's face it. How many people are like you and do not want to fly on an airplane right now? So the travel industry is going to change as a whole.
Right.
I mean, let's take another part of the travel industry. And I don't know the answer. I'll say this right now. How many people are going on cruises right now? Are they even running right now?
Well, that's a good point. That's true.
You know?
I don't know if they're running, but I tell you what, the last thing you want to do is be lost in sea. Otherwise, you're going to get seasickness. You've never been on a cruise, have you?
I have not.
I don't see you going on anytime soon either.
Nope. Not anytime
I'm waiting to
soon.
see you get on a boat for 2 days and see how you feel after it, let alone an extended period of time.
It'll be a while before that happens.
I'm sure.
So what is one of the other things that maybe people have done? My question. It's March. We were in Arizona. We find out that they cancel spring training because there is a pandemic going on. And they decided NBA players had tested positive. NBA had shut down. The domino effect trickled down. Baseball decides, hey, we're going to come. Spring training comes to a halt. No more games. We end our trip on our normal terms. We fly home. What was one of the first items we went out to get?
Toilet paper.
Why?
You really want me to answer that question? It was on a high demand.
It's on a high demand because people were stockpiling toilet paper. Why, people? Besides the fact that you were staying home more, so I guess you're using your own bathroom more than anybody else's.
You think?
But stockpiling is something
Right.
we've come to the realization that we do, you know. We don't want to run out. The afraid of being afraid of not being able to get something has caused us to change some of our habits and stockpile more so that we don't run out.
Well, I can't imagine you wanting to use napkins to take care of what toilet paper would do. But then again, you know what? Paper is paper, but that's not quite the way I visualize napkins.
I agree. And there's more things than just toilet paper.
Right.
You know, in the beginning, you could not find a pair of gloves.
Right.
You couldn't find hand sanitizer.
Right.
You couldn't find a lot of those. You couldn't find masks.
Right.
So that leads me into another industry that is just starting right about now. And that would be schools.
Okay.
How has schools changed?
Well, those are going virtual.
A lot of them are going virtual. So that means teachers are preparing for virtual classes as opposed to in-class students. And I think even when they do transition back to in-class, because some places they are already, some places are staying virtual, some places are not.
Right.
But they're not all going back at the same time. Some of them, because we can't public gather like we used to, we have to social distance, means they can't all be in the same classroom at the same time.
Right.
And we didn't all of a sudden build all kinds of new schools so they could have room. So you're having some that do a hybrid. You're in classes some days and you're virtual other days. And then the other half of your class does the opposite schedule.
Right.
So what's this thing we were talking about, masks?
You tell me. Yeah, obviously we're not looking at the Lone Ranger, are we?
If you would have told me 9 months ago that I, working in a bank, would feel comfortable with people walking in with masks on their face,
Right.
gloves on their hands, and walking up to a teller line, I would have been, you're crazy, that person is going to try and rob us.
Yeah, that's true. There's a stereotype there for sure. Even when I walked into the bank one time looking like that, you told me you wouldn't have gotten away with this 2-3 months ago, but unfortunately it's a new norm.
It is, and some places it's mandatory yet.
Right.
Mask up. So we talked a little bit about health before, but there is also some anxiety that comes with this, and some fears that come with this pandemic. And some of it stems from the unknown, because we're all afraid of the unknown. And we've heard recently, because we couldn't have heard this before, that some people, when they might be asymptomatic, they might only have symptoms for 2 weeks, but some of them have symptoms for months. And some of them have lasting effects. They might have heart problems, kidney problems, brain problems. They might have blood clots. So they might not have died originally from the virus, but they might die from the ill effects down the road.
Right, complications of the virus.
Exactly. But we all think, I'm going to have the flu, and the flu's going to be done in a week, and I'll be back to work, no problem.
Right.
It doesn't happen that way for everybody, for the flu or the pandemic.
Well, I remember when I had a doctor's appointment, and I saw the protocols being what they are, it was definitely not no normal visit. In fact, when I went down to Baptist Health in Miami for a routine appointment for a medical device I have in, I thought going through that was worse than going through an airport, and that wasn't easy. And that was the first time I went to an advanced facility, and that was actually in a cancer center. But all the protocols and the things you had to do were something I had never experienced before. So you definitely have to allow yourself a lot more time when you go to a doctor visit. I would say an average of about 30 minutes to an hour longer than you ordinarily would under these particular circumstances.
So let's move on to one of everybody's favorite topics, because let's face it, when girls are dating, we're always kind of taught the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So let's move on to talking about restaurant industry.
Okay.
Because they've had some big changes.
A lot of them are going broke.
A lot of them are going broke because a lot of them had to shut down. Because remember, if we can't gather, they can't open up at full capacity because we're not social distancing then. So let's go over some of the things that have changed that we've noticed. Buffets, are they self-serve anymore?
I haven't been in one, but I would assume not.
Not from everything I've seen. I've seen that they put glass up. You have to ask for whatever you want. So how many people are really going to go to a buffet now knowing that somebody else has to serve them extra and extra and extra? Because let's face it, some of the times when you went to a buffet, you went there because nobody knew how much you were eating.
Right.
And now people are, so you might be a little embarrassed now. So how many people are going to go?
Well, I didn't like buffets in the first place. I didn't lose 70 pounds because I'm eating buffets. But yes, there's another step involved for sure. And therefore, you're accustomed to self-serving yourself with a buffet versus somebody doing it for you.
What about a soda machine? A lot of these restaurants, even the fast food places have put a machine in their lobby or the lobby area. You'll go order, you'll get your glass, you go up to the machine, you push whatever buttons for whatever drink you want, put your glass underneath, a spout or a spigot, and your drink comes out.
Okay.
And then you go sit down, you drink, you're talking, you get up, you put that same glass underneath. At least that's what you used to do.
Right.
Are they allowing you to do that anymore?
No, I think a lot of them are going to paper goods. In fact, we experienced that last week where you actually had to get a new paper cup every time you went up there. Do that quite a few times. And the word free refills, make sure you got a little bit more work to do. But if you want the drinks bad enough, you'll get the paper cups. If you don't, you won't.
I don't see condiments on the table anymore either.
No, they're going to paper, disposable.
Well, and you have to ask for them.
Right.
So there's not salt and pepper shakers on the table.
Right.
You have to ask for that kind of stuff.
Right.
I have yet to be to a restaurant that has their original full menu that they had pre-pandemic. Everybody has a limited menu so far that I've seen.
Yeah, but well, I'll tell you what, we took advantage of that limited menu when we actually went over to Ruby Tuesdays, and we were able to get some pretty good deals there for a while. And also, in an effort to try to keep the restaurant busy, they were willing to give away their food or go broke. So I understand where they're coming from. It worked for us, but I understand that in some cases they stayed open for the sake of survival. Something's better than nothing, but I get that.
Right, but I'm saying even now that restaurants are open, or opening even though it's slight capacity, it's not full.
Right, well, their menu's definitely limited to 30 to 40% of what they're allowed to do, or whatever the percent may be. But, yeah, substantially less than it was beforehand.
So, if I'm going to a restaurant, it's 6:30 on a Friday night. You used to maybe wait. Now you're definitely going to wait. Well, not definitely going to wait because it depends on how many people are there. But let's say you go and they're at seating capacity.
Right.
What happens now?
Either you have two choices: either you wait or you go somewhere else.
So, how are they making you wait? They're asking for your phone number. They're asking for you to sit outside or sit in your car, and they'll text you when they're ready to seat you.
Right.
No more sitting in a waiting room or anything like that.
Right.
The same at the doctor's office, too. A lot of them. You're here. We'll text you when we're ready to take you.
Right. Well, I still found it interesting when I had to deal with the pet situation. That was a first. No, we took the cat there, and they had to take him out, and then of course bring him back. Now I have to admit, that took a little getting used to. I understood it. It was something I'd never seen before.
Okay. Now let's move on. Grocery stores, drug stores. How many are open 24 hours a day anymore? I don't know many because they're at night, they're doing their deep cleans.
Right.
Days gone by to the 24 hours. And then there was a shortage of plexiglass. We're going to get used to seeing people through a glass.
Right. Well, think about the grocery stores. Let's go back for that in a minute. When do we usually like to go? First thing in the morning, lesser crowds, right? Or later at night. Nothing in between, unless we really have no choice but to do it. So, yeah, it does change your time and your habits about when you want to do it because, again, it's all about low risk at that particular point.
Right. Right. But even at the grocery store, you're finding there's plexiglass in between you and the cash register person.
Right.
Let's move on to employment.
Okay.
Now, how many people found themselves working from home during this pandemic?
Well, now that's a different animal. Yeah, everybody. Being forced to work at home. Yeah.
So for years and years, employees were asking for it, and employers bucked it because they thought, you know what? You're not going to be as productive at home as you are in this office where I can observe you.
Right.
And I think a lot of employers were pleasantly surprised as production didn't drop off like they thought it might. I think employees were just so happy and relieved that they didn't have to go in. And yet they were earning a paycheck.
It wouldn't matter if gas prices were $50 a gallon, they didn't have to leave the house.
So my question to you, Scott, is going forward, how many office buildings do you think will be built? Or do you think there'll be a lot of vacancies in office buildings because more employers will not need the office space as much because they'll allow some of their employees to work?
Well, that's a double-edged question. Number one, there's still going to be a lot of office buildings being built. Yes, well, there'll be vacancies, of course. But to me they wash. But yes, I understand that there'll be more people working at home. But the office buildings and the growth isn't going to stop. As much as you want to think that we go back to the media things, that some habits are going to change
I'm
during
going
an
to disagree with
unprecedented
you
time.
again.
Well, good. Do it.
I'm going to disagree with you again because I think as they see that more and more people can be as productive at home, if not more productive, that they're going to let people stay at home, and then they're not going to need as many office buildings or as many offices in their complex. Maybe they'll rent it out and share it with, a couple others. But I think that there is going to be fewer and fewer people going into an office, reporting to an office.
Well,
I think where you're going to see the building is in homes, that they're going to be building offices into more homes.
Interesting.
I can tell you that one of the constructions that is happening in West Palm Beach, it's an office complex, and they originally it was going to be for one company, and they were going to have one big kitchen and break room, and they have now decided to scale that back and do multiple kitchens and multiple break rooms so that they can social distance and they're not all in one big gathering place.
Okay.
So it's going to change. Life as we know it's not going to go back to what it was.
Okay.
Especially in the offices. So
yeah, let me see the architect that's going to head and put these blueprints together. I get the fact that there is going to be drastic change. We've established that this evening. I get that. But some things are going to be what they are. Now, when you buy a home, are you going to certainly make a provision with a lot of these places that you're going to have an office set up inside the home? Well, you have a lot of people in industries anyways, whether it's insurance or whatever, working out of their home. Now, when people do sit behind a computer and do Zoom, yeah, you definitely don't see what's below the weights, that's for sure. As long as you got a shirt on, you look credible, nobody's going to know it anyways.
Much more comfortable.
Right.
All these people can be wearing shorts and you wouldn't even know it.
That's true.
Your business attire has gone from business attire to casual attire.
Well, that wouldn't break my heart anyways.
I'm sure it wouldn't.
So,
going back to the restaurant business, the part of the restaurant business that has probably taken off more so than the other parts, delivery service.
Right.
Curbside, I can call ahead and I can just drive up. They'll put it in my trunk. I'll have paid for it already because I'll pay for it on their app. They'll put it in I'll click the button on my trunk so I don't even have to talk to them. They'll put it in my trunk and I'll drive. They'll close my trunk and I'll drive home. So I don't even have to touch any or come into contact with any people. That industry has taken off. I read an interesting article going back to stores because so many people now are ordering things online. We've heard of all the stores we knew growing up closing,
Well, let's face the reality. The retail industry's been on the way down anyways, and Amazon's been eating them up alive. So, yeah, it's weird when you go during the holidays and all of a sudden you see a lot of shopping centers practically empty. When you have the Macy's and the Sears and the J.C. Penney's going out of business, and that Amazon is taking over, just to name a few. That industry's already taken over. But yeah, is it expediting because of this situation? It certainly doesn't hurt.
But you know where it's headed?
Where?
Instead of a person delivering your package,
what?
You're going to have a drone delivering
God.
your package.
Please, really?
Oh yeah, it's coming. It's coming down the pipe.
Oh my goodness!
Because all they got to do is type in, program in your address, and the drone will take the package to that address. It's coming.
Well, I can't wait till you get the Jetsons mobile. Then I'll have to worry about red lights. Or stop signs.
Well, you don't have to worry about it because you won't be driving it. It will be driving you.
Oh, no. No way. No way.
It's coming in your lifetime, my dear.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's taking that wheel away from me except the man upstairs.
I take it away from you every once in a while.
Yeah, but you're not taking it away from me very much. The only time you ever take it away from me is when I have shoulder operations, neck operations. I've been able to manage without the knees so far, but let's not curse this whole situation.
I'm not going to curse anything. Where do you think, what industries do you think have been created out of this?
I can only imagine what you're thinking.
Well, you wear a mask all the time now, right?
Yeah.
Did you wear it before?
No, that's true. I didn't.
So there's an industry.
Okay.
How often did you use hand sanitizer before?
Not as much as I use it now.
That's an industry. An industry that I can tell you that you don't see, but that has obviously grown, is the deep cleaners.
Right.
Ones that go into all these businesses every night and deep clean, disinfect.
Right.
Think how much more we disinfect now.
Right.
The industry that creates the Lysol wipes or anything you use to disinfect. That's boomed. The delivery service has boomed because, let's face it, nobody wants to go out to do things. They all want it brought to them. You can order groceries online. Someone brings them to you, or eventually a drone. You
don't need drones. Seriously?
Yep.
Seriously? Oh my goodness.
It's coming.
Okay.
One of the things that you can't do at stores, if you go into an apparel store, you can no longer try on clothes at a store because they don't want. Who knows how many people have tried on that same piece of clothing? They don't want to pass on germs.
Yeah, now I got to tell you, that's a little tough to swallow there.
It might be tough to swallow, but it's a pill you're going to have to swallow.
I know.
A lot of places were limiting returns. So you bought something and it doesn't fit. Too bad, so sad, we weren't taking it back. Some of them have eased up on it. I know going into the grocery store now, you wait for at least one, if not two employees that are always in the front there, and they're cleaning off all the handles and wiping down all the carts before you take it from the previous person. So that's an industry that, another employee that's being employed there. Drone thing, you really not into it, huh?
No, any more than I like having to deposit a check with online banking or however you people in the banking industry try to get me to do it. I'm used to a teller, for crying out loud, not taking a picture of a check and doing that. Some things I got to get used to, okay? Using these little machines you got in the bank instead of handing the check. But I realize it is what it is, okay? You know, there was a former manager that I am very well familiar with at a bank that tried to spend forever to get me to do it. I still gave it to the teller. Didn't matter. But again, you know, I'm a lot older than a lot of people that are used to doing it the old electronic way.
I'll be honest with you, Scott. There are a lot of people that are older than you that are using those machines. It's just a matter of getting familiar with them.
Scary thought, isn't it?
You know, I used to think it was a scary thought. But the reality is, times have always changed. Times will continue to change. If you don't change with the times, you will get left behind.
So good. Tell me a drone's going to negotiate with a car salesman trying to whack you, then we'll see where we're really at that point.
There won't be any negotiating.
Oh, is that right? Really? Oh, my God.
They're going to have set prices, and boom, you're done.
I can't wait to see that. And guys like me that have a certain fiery personality lose out on the challenge of getting these guys to drop their drawers.
You've seen the commercials. Come on. You can buy a car from a vending machine. You can buy a car and they'll deliver it to you. So you're not even going into a car dealership.
Right.
So you're not haggling a price with the car dealership.
Well, okay. There's still
Like I said, times have changed. You got to change with the times.
Yeah, human element. Goodbye. Drones. Hello.
Not always, but yes.
Ah, come on. Seriously. Human element. What do we got? A bunch of robots walking around here telling us what we're going to do? Next minute, you're going to tell me that Lost in Space with Dr. Zachary Smith is going to come back next, right? Hello?
Speaking of robots,
Oh,
have you been in Walmarts lately and seen the robots that they have going around that are cleaning the floor as you're
yeah,
shopping?
I did see those. That part I saw.
So yes, robots maybe are taking over some of the things.
Right, no, I get it.
But
I've seen those
somebody
things
made that
around.
robot.
Okay.
So yes, industries have changed. New things are developing. And yes, some people are going to say, oh, I don't want to do that because I'm going to take from somebody's job. New jobs are being created as well. So we just have to remember that. Don't fight technology and advancement.
Easier said than done for some people. I get it. But I will tell you this, though. As much as I have a love-hate relationship with technology, I have appreciated the Zoom calls from a networking standpoint. I've really enjoyed that. Certainly saves you from having to go in, to a networking facility. I've enjoyed the Zoom calls when it comes to dealing with some of the teams because, let's face the reality. This is what I've got to work with, and there is a more efficient way to do it. You're not, again, taking away the human element down the road. But, again, you're forced to acclimate. Just so you know, folks, you're listening to No Limits. My name is Scott Morgan, North Motor City Madmouth, along with Candy Ebling. And just so you know, you can hear this broadcast on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, and we'll go over that information shortly. But yeah, there's no question, Candy, that during the course of this broadcast, that the future is going to be impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been all over the world, not U.S.-wise. And again, the numbers that we talked about are very, very real. Of course, how updated they are by the second. But let's reiterate on those numbers for you folks that are just joining us, okay? Over 22 million cases worldwide, 780,000 have died, over 5.4 million cases in the United States, and over 170,000 deaths. Unfortunately, that number will probably change tomorrow, but as it stands right now, it figures to go up. The same concepts are going to be what they are. You mask up, okay? You use common sense. You pray. You make sure that you respect the frontline heroes, the doctors, the nurses, and all the people that put themselves out there for you. Those things are, that's the time that we live in. We go through these pandemics once every 110, 120 years. How do you think your mom and your grandparents would have thought of this? Thankfully, they don't have to deal with all this insanity like all of us have to deal with.
That's true. That's true. But it is what it is, and we have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect others. And for all those people that are trying to make this political, stop.
Right.
Stop. Take the politics, leave it for the actual political agendas of voting on things that don't have anything to do. I'm going to tell everybody, it's important to vote. It's important to use your voice. But please, when you're using your voice, don't disrespect the opposition. You have a right to say what you want. You have a right to have an opinion. You have a right to voice it and try and help people learn. But don't downgrade or downplay somebody else because they don't feel the exact same way you do.
I agree. And being in the sports business, how are games going to be? Are they going to reduce the capacity in press boxes down the road? Yeah, you can rest assured that's probably going to happen at some point.
Well,
how much essential
fans,
media?
So.
Well, we had a guy on the other day who was doing remote writing where he has to use clips and secondary sources to get it. Not only this year, but down the road. Are we going to see stadiums at full capacity? I find it hard to believe that you'll ever see full capacity, but three-quarters, we're talking about college football. We don't know whether it's going to even survive the year. Baseball's run across some outbreaks. The NBA bubble's been good. The NHL bubble's been good. The virtual broadcasting you're talking about with NASCAR's worked out well. So there are components of what you've talked about that we've had to really acclimate that have been what they are. Again, is it 2020 or is the norm going to be what it is, what stuff carries over to what time will tell.
So let's go back to broadcasting.
Okay.
So you said NASCAR does remote broadcasting. So does MLB.
Right.
NBA, they are in the bubble with the players.
Right.
NHL, are they in the bubble with the players?
Well, you know what? Some of them are in studio. I haven't seen a lot of it. And the NBA is a good bubble example where you do have the plexiglass and everybody with their social distancing. And some of the...
right, and they're in the bubble.
Right. I haven't seen a lot of it in the NHL, so I can't answer your question. From what I understand, most of them are in their studio. But the NBA bubble and the NHL bubble is different. But you also got to remember that the NBA bubble is located in Orlando, Florida, where the NHL bubble is north of the border in Toronto and Edmonton. So you don't know how many announcers are actually let in the facility. So there's some variables there. Mm-hmm. But again, the common denominator, though, is the plexiglass and the distancing part of the whole thing as well. I get that.
Yes.
But
Again, that
NASCAR,
plexiglass.
right, and NASCAR set the stage for it, and everybody else started to feed off of it for sure.
I agree. Going forward, life as we know it as we knew it 8 months ago will not be the same as we know it today, and it will not be the same as we know it 6 months from now. Life is always changing. Remember, accept the change, roll with the change, or you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, pretty hard to debate that. So for all you people that like buffets, life isn't going to be the same, but you're only missing a few calories. But I get it. Like, you know, this is 2020. We don't know what 2021 is going to look like.
We don't.
Yeah, we got another 4 or 5 months. And this is an ongoing story and a dilemma that changes by the second. It really does.
I agree. One of my employees the other day was saying that she was needing to have her car repaired. Well, it used to be that she took her car in, they would give her a loaner car, and she'd go on her merry way. They stopped doing loaner cars because they don't want to have to clean them out after every person that loans out the car.
Okay. So then what do? You
just drop off your car and you leave it for however long and you're without the car.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? Jump in an Uber to get to work? What are you going to do? Going to take a taxi? Still could catch the virus that way. More risk.
You don't have a choice. If your car doesn't work, your car doesn't work.
Right.
They're not giving you a loaner. What else are you going to do?
Right. Okay.
That's just one of the changes, one of the things that's going to change.
Okay.
Any other final thoughts?
Whether we like it or not, old school or new school, it don't make a lick of difference. So, once again, folks, you're listening to No Limits. The way to access this broadcast is through Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. To reach us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Tribune South, Facebook, like us at South Florida Tribune, Instagram, South Florida Tribune Gets It Done. I have a YouTube channel there, South Florida Tribune. We will be building that YouTube channel up through Zoom broadcasts, and that'll be part of the things that we're going to be dealing with. Please go to our website at www.southfloridatribune.com. We have a lot of writers, we have a lot of media distribution partners, and all of our broadcasts can be located there as well. If you want to email us, feel free to do so at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to connect with me, Scott Morganroth, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to go out there and accept your request to connect, and any feedback that you want or any ideas pertaining to future topics here on No Limits. We certainly encourage that through all our social media, email, or anything else. Andy, anything else you want to add before we wrap this broadcast up?
No, it's been a fun, enjoyable evening. I look forward to our next episode of No Limits.
All right, No Limits. Meanwhile, until the next time, this is Scott Morganroth saying thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see if we can do better the next time.
Mask up, everybody.
You got it.